It's hard to imagine that this soft-spoken woman could be so vicious as to stab a man 31 times.
严实的砍死他为止，说，干脆把他去埋掉。
After she killed him, her father-in-law helped her with burying the body. Even when she was in prison, some prison guards felt pity for her. So what happened to this woman? On the afternoon of August 2nd, 2001, a woman named Jinxiang went to the police station to confess that she had killed someone yesterday. The woman didn't seem to be joking or mentally abnormal. Due to the seriousness of the case, a large number of police rushed to the place where the woman said the body was buried, a hillside in the village. When the police walked into this wasteland, they found some bloodstains on the ground. Subsequently, the police dug up a male corpse under a tree. The deceased was stabbed 31 times, and his face was completely unrecognizable. This bloody and terrifying scene shocked the villagers who were watching. The woman named Tan was 30 years old that year and lived in this village. She had always been on good terms with people who she knew and was seen as a kind and family-oriented woman. The victim, Liu Jianxin, was 45 years old at the time. He was a villager there, single, and had lived alone for many years. Villagers had mixed opinions about him, some saying he was warm-hearted, while others saying he was rude and arbitrary. What was the relationship between him and Liu? Tan was born in a remote rural village in Hunan province in 1970. Her parents were impoverished peasants. When she was 20 years old, her parents began arranging blind dates for her, hoping that she could marry a good man. One day, a matchmaker came to Tan's family and told them that there was a single man in his 20s named Chen in another village, and he was also looking for a wife. He was a nice, strong, and hard-working man. He was the only child in his family, and his family's income was not bad. By the way, in some places in China, the groom or his parents pay a certain amount of money or valuable items as bride price to the bride's family. Chen's family was willing to offer a bride price of 50,000 yuan, about $7,000. Learning the situation about Chen's family and the bride price they would offer, Tan's parents were satisfied. Tan also agreed to the marriage without meeting Chen. However, when Tan arrived at Chen's home all the way from her hometown, she found that the situation in his family was not even close to what the matchmaker had told her. The truth is, Chen's hometown was also very underdeveloped, and the bungalow his family lived in was dilapidated. Chen and his parents earned a meager income by farming. It could be seen that their economic conditions were not better than the Tan family's. At first, in order to get the commission from this marriage, the matchmaker lied about the economic situation of Chen's family. But Tan felt that she was uneducated and was nothing special. It was not her place to be picky. In addition, after she had contact with the Chen family, she felt that Chen and his parents were very good people, so she didn't regret the marriage. At that time, she believed that even if the living conditions were not good for the moment, she could still create a good life with her husband together. So the two quickly married. 1 year later, their daughter was born. In the 5th year of marriage, in order to make more money, Chen went to a city to work and could only go home once or twice a year. Tan lived with their daughter and her parents-in-laws together. In addition to doing farm work, Tan also needed to take care of her parents-in-law and her child. She was very busy and tired every day, but she never complained. Sometimes her neighbor Liu Jianxin helped her with the heavy work. This single man, Liu, who was 15 years older than Tan, not only often helped her with some farm work, but also chatted with her in her spare time. Tan was grateful for Liu taking care of her like a brother, and sometimes invited him to have dinner with her family. However, what Tan didn't expect was that this neighbor who she saw as a brother soon showed his true colors.
眼神吧，好像跟一般的人那个眼神看别人不同了，觉得好像不正常了，给我说话的那个语气，给我说话的那个语气好像有点不对了。
Liu's attitude made Tan feel uncomfortable, but she didn't know how to deal with it. Her non-committal attitude made Liu even more unscrupulous. One day, he even felt her up. Although Tan said no to him, it didn't stop him. Since then, things went worse and worse. One hot afternoon in the summer of 1996, Liu came to visit Tan at her home. Seeing that Tan was home alone, Liu seemed very excited and horny. He walked up to Tan, and Tan was eventually cornered. Tan was at a loss, and she didn't know whether she should scream for help. She tried to persuade Liu to let her go, but the fierce Liu said that if she dared resist, he would kill her family. Under such threats, Tan reluctantly had sex with him. After that, there was no way back. Liu insulted her many times. Tan didn't dare to resist and was too ashamed to tell her family about this. Every time Liu left, she felt endless humiliation. In addition to physical pain, she was so guilty about her husband and parents-in-law who had always treated her well. She also didn't want her daughter to know what kind of a mother she was. However, every time she begged Liu to let her go, Liu was extremely furious and threatened to kill her family. He knew that he had to keep this weak woman in fear so that he could get what he wanted. He not only threatened Tan verbally, but also did some intimidating actions, such as pulling up the seedlings that Tan planted just as they were beginning to grow. He once even poisoned several chickens that Tan raised. His behaviors made Tan very scared, and she had no choice but to continue to maintain this shameful relationship with him. In self-blame and humiliation, Tan spent a whole 5 years living in pain. Eventually, what she was afraid of most happened. One day, Tan was alone at home when Liu came to her home again. Just when they finished, her parents-in-law came back from outside before Liu left. They saw the hickey on her face, and since there were only Liu and Tan at home, they figured out what had happened. At that moment, Tan felt deeply ashamed. She thought her parents-in-law would never forgive her, and her family would be ruined. Unexpectedly, her mother-in-law came to her room that night and said to her, "You are my daughter-in-law, and you are also my daughter. Don't do something unseemly that would hurt our family." Their tolerance made Tan hate herself even more, and she made up her mind to end this relationship. One day in July 2001, Tan plucked up her courage to find Liu, and once again told him not to pester her. She said to Liu, "We are neighbors, and it would be too humiliating if people find out. I'm begging you to find someone else." Same as always, Liu disagreed to end their relationship, saying, "You're afraid of being found out? Then I will follow you every day. I'll go wherever you go. Just so you know, with us, it never ends." Tan despaired. She really didn't know how to get rid of this man. The depression and anxiety pushed her on the verge of collapse. A few days later, Tan was doing farm work in the field as usual when Liu appeared again suddenly. He walked up to Tan and forcibly dragged her up the hill. He wanted to have sex with her in a place where no one else was around. Tan couldn't believe that he not only didn't leave her alone, but forced her to have sex outside in daylight. Liu was strong, and Tan was too weak to stop him. In a panic, she took the sickle used for weeding and cut his shoulder twice. At first, Tan just wanted to scare him away so that he wouldn't bother her anymore in the future. However, the injured Liu showed no sign of fear and said angrily to Tan, "How dare you cut me? I will kill your whole family. I am just one person, and your family has 5 people. My life, in exchange for your 5 lives, it is worth it." Upon hearing this, Tan was furious, and the long simmering anger exploded. She once again lifted the sickle in her hand and cut Liu crazily until he died. Liu, who was in a pool of blood, was no longer breathing. Tan ran frantically home, thinking about Liu's body still on the hill. The more she thought about it, the more scared she became. However, her husband was not at home, and she didn't know who to turn to for help. After thinking about it over and over again, she decided to tell her father-in-law about it. Her father-in-law was shocked, but also felt bad for her. He said that in a few hours when morning comes, the body would be quickly discovered by people. At the moment, the most urgent thing was to make the body disappear. Then, Tan said that she wanted to bury the body. Her father-in-law believed that she couldn't complete the burial of the body alone and decided to help her. Around 11 o'clock at night, Tan and her father-in-law sneaked out and headed for the hill. They cleaned up the scene and buried the body. Even so, Tan stayed up all night. The fear ate her up. The next afternoon, she came to the police station to surrender. In February 2002, Tan was sentenced to life imprisonment for intentional homicide, and her father-in-law was sentenced to 1.5 years in prison for participating in the crime. In prison, Tan's husband and parents-in-law visited her several times. Knowing that Tan was going to be interviewed, her father-in-law made a video for her. Now, Tan has been released from prison after receiving several commutations for good behavior.